Did something destroyed?
Alrighty, hey YouTubers, I am back with some more goodness here one day later. Let's do the countdown here. 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to try to stay energetic, even though I've had a long day at work, so I'm a bit tired. But I have some matches to do here. I'm going to try to do them all tonight. I might fall asleep in the middle of this, though. I don't know. This is on Chupung-Ryeong, by the way. Fantasy is down here in blue at the 8 o'clock position. That means Leta is up at the 2 o'clock position in orange. Let me try to get that in my head right now. Leta's orange. Fantasy is blue. Okay. Since this is a mirror matchup, it's always good to get that cleared up. I've seen a very epic TVT on this map recently. I calmed it with Ranchin, actually. It was 43 minutes long or something ridiculous like that between UpMagic and Flash. That was a fantastic game. So I kind of feel born again as a TVT fan. And hopefully this game doesn't screw that up. Because long before that match, for quite a while before that match, I was always like, oh god, I hate TVT. But that match kind of made me change my mind. So we'll see how this match goes. And it looks like Fantasy is checking for cheese to the right of his base. A very smart thing to do. He's looking all over the place for it too. Okay, there's a sign that says, okay, I'll do the next one. Over here, looks like a supply depot going down a little bit late for Leta. I think he's probably saving some minerals for his gas and barracks right away. Although I think Fantasy's putting down his gas and barracks right away as well. And Fantasy's looking all over the place for cheese. He was looking to the side of the middle as well for cheese. He just has a strong suspicion that Leta is going to cheese him, which Leta is not going to do, so he doesn't really have to worry about that. That sign says, okay, Fantasy looks exactly like Napoleon Dynamite. But oh man, it looks like Fantasy is bringing the cheese here. He was looking around for cheese so he could do cheese of his own. This is interesting. So he's building that barracks off. You know, in TVT, building a proxy barracks actually isn't that big of a deal. Since, this actually happened in the UpMagic versus Flash game, but whatever. That's beside the point, because you really don't need your barracks for a lot. You need it to build your factories, basically. And Fantasy is going to be behind on his factory, but he's going to put on a little bit of early pressure with Marines, I think. I'm not sure exactly how many Marines he's going to try to pump here before he just floats that away and uses the barracks as a scout, as the barracks usually is in TVT. But we'll see how it goes. Factory going out late for Fantasy, a little bit late. I don't think it'll affect his game too much, especially considering UpMagic went for the same strategy against Flash on this map from the same position. So I think Fantasy probably studied that game and wants to use the same strategy here, although I don't think there were any Marines out here for Fantasy. Fantasy is just using that barracks for a scout, and it's going to be a very fast scout as well. So that was his plan all along, which is a very good plan, because in TVT you need to be able to know what your opponent is doing. Like, I'm not sure if Fantasy is going to be able to scout that starport coming up here. Yes, he is. He's bringing in an SCV. This is interesting. So he got a super thorough scout here, so he knows that the starport is coming up for Leta. And Leta's in a little bit of trouble now, I think. Leta finally getting rid of the SCV. Not able to kill it, though. So Fantasy's going to run that SCV back to mine. And I think Fantasy is definitely in the better position here, because Leta hasn't gotten any scout on Fantasy and what Fantasy's up to right now. He's going to soon, though. You see there's SCV chase down here. And I'm not sure if, Leta's not going to be able to kill that SCV because of the Vulture. Fantasy, of course, is known for his excellent Vulture control. It's no surprise that he went for Vultures this early, but he's going to definitely need to get some tanks out if he wants to even think about applying pressure, because he's not going to be able to get past the single tank of Leta's. Leta, since he has that tank out, he's probably going to take his expansion soon. Fantasy is already putting down his expansion. and Fantasy's scouting barracks is being floated away and might actually burn down if he's not too careful here. I think Leta might take down... yeah, I think he's definitely going to take down this barracks now that he has a Wraith out. And Fantasy, to adapt, is putting down his armory to get out some Goliaths. This is just... I'm hoping for as good of a game as Flash versus UpMagic was on this map. This map seems to be very conducive to great TVT. I've seen a couple good TVTs on it recently. Mind was playing in one of the games. I forget who he played in that, though. And there's finally the barracks going down, so it looks like Fantasy's going to have to rebuild his barracks before he makes any more production factories there. And the Wraith coming in to do some economic harassment, and the armory's not up yet, so no Goliaths are coming out, that's for sure. And Leta's going to be very, very annoying with this Wraith. Wraiths are pretty weak. It takes quite a few shots to take down an SCV, but there are no Goliaths forthcoming here. So I see about 3 SCVs going down here, maybe 4. There's a second one going down, and Leta's bringing in his Wraith right into the main, going to probably try to take out some gas SCVs and do a good harassment there, or just scout. He definitely wants to be careful to keep that Wraith. Now that Goliaths are out, he's not going to be able to do anything with that Wraith until he gets Cloak, researches Cloak rather, gets Cloak energy in here. Wraiths, not only are they weak in their attack, they're also weak in their armor. So Leta's going to have to be very careful. I think 2 more Goliath shots will probably take that Wraith down. And scan is up for Fantasy. Fantasy's rebuilding his barracks so he can get some more production factories out here. He's going almost completely for vultures. I'm not sure if Fantasy's getting anything else out but vultures at this point. And Leta finally taking his natural expansion. But Fantasy is definitely working from a good economic advantage here. He got that natural a lot quicker than Leta did. Let's get a prediction from a Nuke before I forget. Yo Last Resort writes, he's guessing that Leta will move on because he's so hot right now in Pro League. And I'm thinking some of that success will carry over. He does have a great record in Pro League. From what I noticed, the last time I checked his stats was like 17 wins, 4 losses in Pro League or something. It could be a little bit different now, but whew, that is very impressive. My often co-commentator Ranchin is a huge Leta fanboy, and there have been a lot of new Leta fanboys coming out here. But that's beside the point. Fantasy, it looks like, is switching to Wraiths right now as well. He's getting 2 starports down at a hidden location. So he might be switching straight to Wraiths, and I don't think that Leta is going to stay at Wraiths. I think he only got 1 Wraith out as to be annoying and force Fantasy to go for Goliath. But I think that's all the Wraiths he's going to pump unless he decides to switch his strategy in the middle of the game or something. I don't think he's going to be researching Cloak or going for any more Wraiths because I don't see any more Wraiths. And Fantasy going for heavy Wraiths here. He's not putting down his control tower right away, so he's not going to have cloaked Wraiths. And he did scan Leta's base right there, so he's going to know where to come in with those Wraiths. That's a very strange strategy from Fantasy. He's going for vultures, Goliath. Okay, now he has some tanks out. I was wondering where his heavy armor was. He definitely needs some tanks in here. And I think this will come down to the fact if Leta can scout this or not. I think Leta probably has scanned those 2 starports from Fantasy right now. There's a good chance he has because players usually hide things down behind the bases on this map since there's a lot of space there. Even Protosses do. Of course, Zergs can't, but you know how that goes. Armory coming up now for... Okay, the Wraiths are finally revealed here, and Fantasy is bringing in 2 Wraiths. No Goliaths out because the Armory is not out yet for Leta, so Leta's probably going to have to bring in his Wraith to fend this off because he doesn't have anything else, really. Oh, man, 4 Wraiths in here for Fantasy. Fantasy's TVT is just monstrous. I actually predicted Fantasy to take this match just because he's so good at TVT. And Leta's a great player, but many great Terrans have fallen to Fantasy's epic TVT. Just Vulture usage, great Wraith usage right here. Now it looks like Fantasy's going in behind. I think he's going to try to break the natural expansion from the left side. And Leta sees this, and he's bringing in his tanks, but those tanks are being picked off by Wraiths. All of these tanks being picked off by Wraiths. So Fantasy's in a huge advantage here, taking out all of the tanks. This is looking terribly bad for Leta. Leta, he still doesn't have anything to deal with these Wraiths. The Wraiths aren't cloaked, so all he has to do is bring in one Goliath, I think, to deal with this. And Fantasy is just picking at units left and right. This tech switch is just brilliant from Fantasy. It just amassed Wraiths out of nowhere and completely threw Leta off. Leta does have some Goliaths in here, but there's not going to be enough. The Goliaths being picked off, and with those Goliaths going down, his last hope is going down as well, because he needs something to deal with the Wraiths.